Good afternoon, welcome to Viscount Leisure. My name is Charles and I'm going to take you on a quick tutorial video around this Sprite we've got here, Alpine 2. Just make sure that we know how everything works, how everything operates, and then hopefully get off and use your caravan quite nicely. So we'll start at the door, that's our way into the caravan. See, we've got two magnets here, that's how we hold our door back. Alright, that will sit back there, stops it dashing around in the wind. When we're inside the van, we want to lock the door. We push it to the upright position. You can see then the bolts then come out. And then to open the door in the normal way, we just push the button down. Moving on around, you can see we also have a motor mover attached, also engaged power touch mover there. We'll have a look at that when we, at the end of the video, we'll have a quick demo of that, make sure we know how that works. When we get to a site, you can see we've got 4 corner steadies, all right? So what we want to be doing is making sure we can level our van, okay? So we want to level the van side to side. Most pitches you'll find will be level, but if not, you'll need some sort of leveling wedge to raise one side up. But we want to be level left to right, also front to back as well. Okay, so before we do anything, make sure the van's nice and level. You can get spirit levels either in the doorway, on the A-frame, wherever you want to put them, just to make sure we have got that level right. For front to back, we use our jockey wheel. We can raise and lower the front of the van to get ourselves level from the jockey wheel there, okay? Once we're level, we're then in a position to wind down our corner steadies here, okay? There is a manual winder in here for you in the front locker, okay? But you can get drill attachments as well to level them down. And then that will steady the van when we're inside it and make sure it doesn't rock around when we're moving about. But level is kind of the operative word, really. We mustn't level our van on those corner steadies, all right? They are there to steady the van, not to level it. Otherwise we can end up damaging the steadies themselves, the underneath of the van, all sorts of things. So level it first, then we put our steadies down, then we've got a nice solid base in which to be working from when we're setting up the rest of the van. Hitch head here, okay, we'll talk more about that when you pick the van up, all right? But a couple of things you need to know. We're running on 13 pin electrics here, all right? So you'll need to make sure that you've got either the right adapter or the right plug on the back of your car to run 13 pin electrics. We also have an Alco hitch head stabilizer here as well. So you will need an Alco compatible tow ball to attach the van to. Like a normal tow ball, it's just slightly different spacing from the car because it's quite a big hitch head to incorporate it on the back of the car and stop it rubbing on the back. Also, if you have an existing tow bar or ball which is grease on it, you need to make sure that you remove all that grease from that tow ball. What we don't want is any grease getting into the friction pads on here, otherwise it makes it kind of null and void, to be honest with you. And if you have a brand new tow ball, you want to make sure that ball itself, you were taking off all of the paint on the tow ball itself, all right? So nice clean bare metal, that way it gives the friction pads something to grab onto when you're moving around. Handbrake as well, breakaway cable. We've also got ATC on the van as well, okay, which is an electronic braking system, so it can individually brake the wheels if it feels the caravan getting itself out of check, all right? But we'll go through hitching up and everything when we pick the van up. Front locker here's got an LPG sticker on the front of it, so that's where we got to keep our gas bottles, okay? I've got my test bottle on there at the moment, so you will need some gas in order to make your van work correctly, okay? Couple of things to note: when we're traveling, make sure that your bottles are strapped in, okay, and also turned off on at the top here as well. So to turn the gas bottle on, we go to the open and then we just close it all the way down to shut it off. But we do want to be making sure that this is shut when we're traveling. Obviously, once we get to site, we want that to start flowing through, so we open up that will then push the gas through the pigtail or the gas hose here into the bulkhead regulator, which will turn it into the working gas pressure for the van and send it through to all the utilities that require it. All right. When we're changing over gas bottles, you can see here we've got a hand tight wheel. No need for spanners with this, okay? It goes into the bottle on an opposite thread, so it's not lefty loosey righty tighty. We go the other way round, okay? And just nip it up nice and tight with your hands. No need for any spanners or anything like that, because there is a rubber seal in at the end of it. That is everything for our gas locker. Okay, moving on round. We've got a Truma boiler on board, okay, just sat just behind here, okay, so this is the boiler flue for it. Now that boiler will work on 230 volt electric when we're plugged into mains. It will also run on gas as well if we're wild camping or don't have access to domestic power, okay. So like we have at home, your boiler will have a flue, okay, to allow the gas and exhaust to come out the side of the van. So that's what that's there for. Nothing you need to do with it, but just so that you're aware. Right, what we do also need to do is make sure that we've got one of these, which is an aqua roll. Okay, this is how we get fresh water into the van. So once you get to site, you'll fill this up, wheel it back to your van. Okay, you're then going to find your water pipe here, which you'll find in the front locker. We drop that into the bottom of the barrel, and then we plug it into the side of the van. We want to do it that way round because this is a semi-rigid pipe. If we start trying to move this around, this will split at the top. So always in the barrel first, then in the side of the van, and the other way round when we want to remove it. So we take it out from the side of the van and then pull it out from the barrel. All right, so once that's all attached in there, we're ready to start priming our water system. Okay, but we'll have a look at that when we are inside. This is kind of where all the power happens on the outside. So we've got 230 volt coming in here. All right, so our mains electric. You will need a mains cable like this one to operate the van in that regard. And then our 12 volt is operated from a battery here. Again, I've got a test battery on here, so you'll need a decent battery, leisure battery, to power your van. So the leisure battery will power the likes of your lights, water pump, fridge panel, that kind of thing. Okay, and then when we're off grid, we can then fill it in everything else with the gas. But if we do have access to mains power, we can push this in here. What that will A, do is charge our battery, and B, will allow us to use our boiler, hot water, fridge and that kind of thing on domestic power, and also use our domestic plug sockets in the van as well. Okay, this does have a cutout, so we can lock this door, okay, when we're plugged in, all right, to stop anybody tampering with it, but that's just open for the moment. Dometic 3-way fridge on board, uses heat to cool, so we've got vents on the outside. What it does is pull the cold air in from the bottom, and I can feel the warm air because I've got this fridge on, coming out from the top there as well. Okay, again, nothing you need to do with them, but just so that you're aware what they are. We know where our water comes into the van, so it needs to come out somewhere, and that's where we have down here. Okay, is we have these two flaps which come out of here. One's coming from the bathroom, one's coming from the kitchen. All right, so you'll have your waste master that you'll need laying on the floor here, which will collect all of our grey water coming from our sinks and showers. Bit of hose there, okay, which you can cut down to the right length. That's designed to fit perfectly into those sections there. And again, once that's full, we take that to our service point on site, and we can empty it there. All right. We've got a separate flush tank here on board. The reason for that is we don't want to be putting chemicals in our fresh water, so we use a pink chemical which we mix with water to go into the flush tank for our toilet. Okay, the instructions on how to dilute that will be on the bottle, but what that does is A, smells all right, and B, keeps everything lubricated, the pump and everything as well, so we make sure that we keep that filled up. Also, of course, when we are not using it, we want to make sure we're draining that down. We'll have a look at that in a second. We don't want to be traveling around with water in it or leaving water in the van at all. Okay. Once we flush the toilet, it's obviously got to go somewhere. That's when we go down to our toilet cassette, which is sat in here. All right, Thetford toilet cassette. All right, so that's collecting everything from the toilet. Once that's full, there's an LED indicator light inside which will tell us when that is full. So we come out, open the locker, lift the handle here, and we can pull the whole unit out like so. Okay, and then what we do is move this round, take the cap off. We press this button here, which allows to release the air pressure inside the unit, and we empty it all out. Okay, we then reprime the unit through the hole here with some toilet chemical. Okay, and that will that blue toilet chemical that we put in there helps break everything down, keeps everything smelling all right as well. Okay, and just make sure that everything's easy to remove when we're finished. Also, we do want to make sure we're using caravan toilet paper, not normal toilet paper, as it dissolves better and will and clears out better from there as well. Okay, so that is our toilet cassette. When we finish, that just goes back in and clips back into place there. Okay, you see we've got lots of sort of seals around these lockers. It's always good to have some silicone spray every now and again. We want to go round and just goes a little spray just to keep them soft and supple and working properly. All right, and it keeps them watertight as well. Around the back of the van here, our number plate goes on the back. Don't forget you will need a number plate depicting the car you're towing with, of course. all of our lights, grab handles on each corner as well. And it does have the pre-drilling for a bike rack on the back of the van, a full bike rack, so you could investigate that if you wish to. Just bear in mind, when we are putting weight on the back of a van, that's A, eating into our payload, and B, we need to be balancing that weight out with the front so that we don't have a van that's too heavy at the back, because they do start swinging around a bit if we put too much weight into the back of a van. All right, so that's quite an important note just to bear in mind there. All right. Right, that's kind of it for the outside of the van, and we'll have a look inside. Okay, now we're inside, what we need to do is start turning some bits and pieces on. We want to get some water coming through our taps. We want to fill our boiler up and do some bits and pieces like that. Okay, so first things first, we're going to come to our underneath our seat here, and we want to turn off or close our boiler drain valve. So this is our boiler drain valve, okay? It's in the downwards position at the moment. You will find it like that. Flick it down, okay? We want it in that position there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come and we're going to make sure all of our taps are closed, all right? Because what we'll have done is we'll have left all of our taps open, okay? So make sure they're all shut, including in the shower. That way, when we turn the water pump on and we start trying to purge water through, it's not just going to come pouring out of our taps, all right? So now we know everything's shut, we can start to turn things on. This here is our main power unit. Okay, so the system shutdown button here, you want to make sure that is switched on, okay? And then you want to make sure that your charger is switched on and your hot water is switched on, ready for when we are plugged into mains. I'm then going to come to, this is my main panel here, and this is my heating panel. Come to this one here, the on button is this button here. I've already got it on, so I can wake the screen up just by pressing on it here, okay? And this is my standby screen, okay? Tells me a few bits and pieces of how warm it is in here. The humidity, the temperature outside, date, time, state of my leisure battery, whether I'm plugged into mains. You see the little lightning bolt there. I'm going to cut turning on my lights. All right, so I've got two sections of lights here, so I can turn them off from here, as you can see. All right, and I can turn them on from there. They've also got dimmers on them as well. Okay, so and then my home button is that one. What I want to be doing is turning on my water pump, which is this one here. So I'll turn that one on there. Next one does my awning light. Okay, the next one will show me the state of my leisure battery. All right, and then I've got also heating controls. I've also got my radio controls in there as well. All right, and also other settings. So I can change dates, times, pair my phone with Bluetooth, change the brightness of the screen, put it into night mode, all sorts of stuff. All right, but my main one here is I want to turn my water pump on, so that's illuminated there like so. And then we want to start filling up our boiler. So the way we do that is we come to our tap. All right, I'm going to turn it over to the hot side first. So we're going to prime the hot leg. So I'm going to turn that on. You can see I've already done that here. But what you'll get is you won't get water to come out straight away. You'll get lots of coughing and spluttering as it pulls the water from our aquaroll outside, fills up our boiler, okay, and then pushes all the air out of the system and out of the taps. Once it's then flowing with a nice steady flow of water there, I can turn the tap off, okay. I'm then going to do the same with my tap in the bathroom, okay, and I'm going to do it the same with the shower as well. Do it with all the taps, that way we'll be getting all the air out of the system and it will just work better in that regard. I'm then going to do the same with my cold leg. Now this will be much quicker because I'm not filling a boiler up, okay, it's coming straight from my aquaroll through the pipes and out here. And then the same in my bathroom as well, okay. So once that's all done, we can then look at starting to heat that water up inside the boiler, all right. Two ways of doing that. I mainly just use the Truman panel here, okay. So we want to make sure that is on for a start. This is my standby screen, tells me the temperature in here at the moment, okay, tells me that the heating is on, my hot water is on, I'm running on electric, okay, and then my fan is on as well. So if I press the wake up button, I can then go through some different options. So I've got a flashing picture here with a thermometer in it. That's my internal temperature. So if I select that, I can change my temperature all the way from off all the way up to 30 degrees, okay. So I've got quite a lot of control there. All I have to do is set that to the temperature I want. As long as I've selected a power source, it will then heat the van to that temperature and keep it at that temperature as well. All right, so there's nothing else you need to do. Going along, I've got a thermometer in some water. That's my hot water, okay. So I can either have that off on eco, which will heat it up to about 40 degrees, or hot, which will heat it up to about 60 degrees. I can also put it onto boost. What that will do is it will prioritize the hot water over the heating system. So if I was going to have a couple of back-to-back showers or something like that, I would put it on that, and then for 15 minutes it would concentrate all of its efforts onto heating my water rather than the heating. Okay, and then it will revert back to its normal setting. I then need to talk about which power I'm going to use. Now, as we know, we can either use gas, we can either use mains electric if we're plugged into mains, okay? So I'm set to electric 2, which is 2 kilowatts of electric power, all right? I can have it on 1 or 2, depending on how much power I have access to on site. And also what I'm using it inside the van, of course. So I know 2 kilowatts works absolutely fine here, but on a small CL site somewhere, if you've got your heating on, you've got your hot water on electric, you've got a kettle going, you've got a toaster going, you're using a hairdryer, and you find you keep tripping out your RCD, which is here, okay, you know you're drawing too much current. So you may want to come in and select 1 kilowatt, and then you can spread that power evenly across the van. Otherwise it will draw quite a lot of current. Anyway, I know 2 kilowatts is fine here, but if I didn't have mains electric, I can also use gas, so I can switch it down to the gas. What that will do is light my boiler on gas, and that will do my heating and my hot water purely from the gas bottle, making sure, of course, I have turned it on in my gas locker in the front, and also keeping an eye on our gas level as well if we are off grid, to make sure that we have enough gas to do everything that we need to do. All right, so what I can also do is run it on a mixture of the two. So if it was a really cold day outside, I really wanted to heat things up quickly, I could come here and put it on mix 2, which is gas and 2 kilowatts of electric, okay, and then once I'm up to temperature and my hot water's hot, I could then switch it over to just to electric. But again, I can have mix 1, so that's 1 kilowatt of electric, mix 2, 2 kilowatts of electric as well. All right, so I'm just going to put that back to electric 2 because I know that works absolutely fine. I then go over to my fan, and then I can have eco or high. Quite simply, that's the fan speed. You can see we've got where our heating comes out of. We have these vents all the way around the van, which we can block off or direct the air, and that is where our warm air comes out from. Okay. There are many other settings I can go into. I can set priorities, timers, and all sorts of things. Not going to go into that now. However, your book pack is over here, and there are very clear instructions as to how everything works, so you can go through that if you want to go through any more in there. Again, all the bits for our panel there as well, so that tells us how we use our panel that we were just looking at. This also tells us about our control system, which is the box that we looked at a second ago. All right, so this is the main PSU for the van. So one side does our 12 volt. You can see we've got our blade fuses in there like you have in your car. So if you do need to change a fuse, that's where you come to. And we have a sticker down here which tells us what fuse does what. And then we have our breakers over here, very much like you'd have at home for the main 240 volt system as that's coming into the van. So that's where they are. Again, separate switches here to make sure that our battery charger and our heating and hot water is on. So you won't be able to use hot water and heating if you haven't got that on, and your battery will not be charging if you don't have that on. Again, down here it tells us what each of the main things does. All right, so it tells us everything there. But the main one we want to talk about here is this blue one, which is the main RCD coming into the van. Okay, so basically this is quite a good test. If you plug yourself in to mains power and you're struggling to get your domestic plug sockets working, you can't get your fridge to work or your heating to work on mains 240 volt, 9 times out of 10 the problem's going to be where you're plugged in from, not your van. All right, so we can test that from here. So we've got this little yellow button here with a T on it. That's our test button. If I press that and nothing happens here, this stays in the upwards position, that tells me I've got no power coming to this unit. All right, so my problem is my post, my lead, or something along those kind of lines, because also the post will have trips as well, so check that. If you press that and this does trip out, that tells us I do have power coming to the unit. All right, so it's just a good way to test if I'm struggling to get power somewhere, where I need to be looking further. There's the battery charger on the back there. Okay, this blue box here is kind of the brain or control box for our motor mover. All right, so that's there as well. Our battery box is back here. Water pump and filter. Okay, and our mains electric is coming in from over there as well. All right, so that is what everything is, and of course our boiler is sat underneath there. Right, we'll go around the rest of the van. We'll have a quick look at how the bed makes up. All right, so really simple. We pull this along here, which pulls all of our bed slats out. Okay, we then drop that over there. That then locks in behind this little screw there. And then what we do is we always sleep on the underside of the cushion because it's a nice flat cushion. All right, turn them all over. I tend to put these ones in the middle. Okay, and then that fills in the middle section. What I would suggest though is with these main cushions, if you have a look at it when they're flat, you do have a bolster, okay, that comes over here. So if you flip these over, so that is by the window side on both sides, okay, that way you've got a nice flat section going all the way across the middle, okay, but you'll find your own way of doing things. But that bolster you kind of want over this side, but of course this turned over. All right, we'll put that all back together and we'll just go around the rest of the van. Right, that's all that's back together here then. So let's just go around and just make sure that we're not missing anything here. We've got a domestic plug socket here, 12 volt plug socket, and also an aerial here as well. The aerial's in the bathroom, we'll have a look at that in a second. Cupboards going all the way around. Here is the radio module for the stereo. You have an aux in there as well, so you can plug that in and use your phone to play music. All right, but that just connects straight to the panel there. Okay, again, more storage and everything down there. Going all the way around just to make sure that we don't miss anything. Good. This is the thermostat, or the pickup for the thermostat for the heating system. We have a light switch down here which does our main kitchen lights as we walk in over the top there. We also have windows, of course. Right, let's have a look at those. So we have anything that opens will have a fly screen. All right, that just stops the midges and everything getting in. And everything, of course, will have a blackout blind as well. All right, but that's also on a ratchet. So depending on where the sun's coming from, we can do whatever we want. Of course, we've got curtains as well, so we've got belts and braces in regards to that. The windows, the way they open, these are what we call click-clack windows. So we open the 4 locks. You have to be quite delicate with these and quite gentle, but we're always listening for a click. So we keep going until it clicks, and then we drop the window back onto the click and it will hold it open. Like so, and then we've got one more. There. And then to bring it back, all we do is lift it up and then it will drop back down again. Okay. We also have, as you can see, we can either lock the windows fully or we can lock them slightly open, kind of on a breather setting. That leaves a small gap going all the way around. That way we can still get some airflow going around the van if we need to. So if we're popping out and it's really warm, we don't want to leave our windows open, we can lock them on a breather mode all the way around, gets a nice bit of airflow going. But if you're leaving the van for any kind of period of time, I would suggest locking them properly, of course. Right, all the windows work in the same way apart from the skylights. We also have a window here as well. This doesn't open, so of course it does have a blind, but it does not have a fly screen. Another lights there, another light switch, and these are the speakers for our stereo. Okay, coming back to our skylight here, the way this opens is we push the button, pull it down, and it will open all the way up. Of course, we have a ratchet system there as well, so we can have it wherever we want, really. Okay, and then making sure that's pushed away and locked into place. All right, also don't forget, really easy to leave these open when we're packing up and then drive away with them open, so just make sure we're going around just checking everything is shut. Again, blind, fly screen. Okay, so that is all as we want it to be. More storage in there. Okie dokie. Good. Okay, coming into our kitchen, we've got more light switches here. This one does the up lighters going from side to side. This one does our down lighters in here for the kitchen. Microwave sat up here, okay, is a 240 volt microwave, so only usable when we are plugged into our mains, okay, not won't run off the battery or anything like that, okay. And when we're traveling, we want to make sure that we are taking out our microwave plate. Really heavy and will easily shatter and dent floors, worktops and everything. All right, so you'll find this in your book pack, all right, when you pick the van up, but do not travel with that in there because I've seen it so many times before. And again, 2 domestic plug sockets here, and we do have some drop throughs for plugs and things like that as well to come down here for our kettles, toasters and whatever we want to be using. Again, another small storage in here, cups, plates. This is the 240 volt plug socket for our microwave, it is in there. Right, excellent. Let's talk about our cooker now. We have a Separate oven, separate grill, 3 gas burner Thetford oven unit here. Okay, again, when we're traveling, this glass unit, you do want to make sure it's in the downwards position. Again, these do bounce around a lot when they're being towed. All right, so again, we have seen these smashed on the floor, so make sure it is down. Of course, when you have your hob on, you want to be making sure that it is, and this is hot, that this is up as well. Okay, it's all pretty self-explanatory. The igniter is here. Okay, and then we know how to operate a gas hob, I would have thought, but we push them down, turn them on, and then press the igniter button. There we go, and that lights that one up. Okay, and again, we've got 3 gas burners on there, making sure, of course, when we are finished, that we are turning them all off. The separate grill pan is in there as well. Okay, we know this one's the grill here because we've got the shading over the top, so we press that down, hold it down, and that lights up like so. Okay, and the oven, again, very similar. Hold it down, press it, that lights across the back, and then we just set the temperature that we want it to be, and then we're cooking. But do bear in mind, okay, this is the domestic oven. Sorry, this is not a domestic oven. This is a caravan oven. So just, you may need to alter your cooking times a little bit. All right, so just bear that in mind, okay, that it isn't your domestic oven pulling out 4 kilowatts at home. That's that. In here we have another cupboard with a sort of a shelving and bits and pieces. Also, our draining board is sat in here as well, which will go on the side of the sink for when we are doing our washing up. Gas isolation switches are also in here as well. If you do need to isolate something, this is where you can come and do that. You shouldn't really need to worry about that in case you do, that is where we will come to do it. Right, the next thing is the fridge. Okay, so Dometic 3-way fridge. What that means is it will run on 3 different types of power. One is gas, okay, as long as our gas is turned on in the front locker, of course. 2 30-volt mains power as well, when we're plugged into mains on the outside, okay. And it will also work on the 12-volt system of our car when we're traveling. All right, that doesn't mean it will run off the leisure battery. Okay, so if we want to keep stuff cool when we're traveling between sites, we can do so. It's not powerful enough to sort of chill the fridge down, but it will maintain the temperature in it if the fridge is already cool. So if you do want to do that, you need to be chilling your fridge down before you leave, and then switching it over to the battery setting. Now, at the moment, I've got it running on the gas setting. You can see there's a picture of a flame, okay, with the light underneath. We have a freezer section over the top. All right, so that's nice and cold in there. We've had this on overnight, so it's all working very nicely. And the fridge does lock into place, and we have a button there. We can push out the catch here as well, all right, using this little thing here. That will then lock the fridge slightly open, so if we're leaving the fridge and want to leave it to air, we can do. On-off button is this one here, so hold that down, that will turn on the fridge. Okay, and again, same button to turn the fridge off, because that will not turn off with our main panel because it's on a separate circuit. We can change the temperature of our fridge by pressing the temperature button. Okay, they don't tend to be like on Macs, so we tend to put them sort of 3/4 of the way up. That way, when we're changing power sources, it seems to be easy to change the power source when it's not all the way up for some reason. That's just from experience, really, more than anything. So this fridge does have an auto setting, so that's what I would suggest using. Okay, so we use the arrows here, put it across to auto. That will then use its preferred power source for the van. Okay, so it knows I'm plugged into mains, so it has selected mains power. All right, if my mains was to trip out, it would then light itself on gas, and then when I plug it into a car, it will then switch itself over to the right setting. All right, which is the battery one. Again, we can override that by just pressing the button, so you can see I can switch it to mains power, I can switch it to gas, okay, and I can put it on the 12-volt system as well. It won't do it because it knows that I'm not plugged into the car. All right, anyway, I'm gonna go back to auto because that will just pick what it wants to pick, and I will just leave it running like so. Extendable worktop, okay, on the outside there as well, so that's there. And we have, in order to put it back, if you look underneath here, we just press the buttons there like that, and that undoes it. So 1 and then 2, and then that goes down to its magnet there. Another skylight works the same as the other one, again with blinds and fly screens there, okay. Fire alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, all right. Excellent. You have a panel here as well for an alarm / tracker system that is fitted within the van, but it does require a subscription, and depending on what age it is, whether it needs a battery replacing. So that's what that is. It's up to you whether you take it any further with it, but the option is in there, but you'll need to contact Swift to activate that. Right, going into our bathroom. Light is just sat down here. Okay, you can see that bits our lights everywhere. Towel rail all over the place. Frosted glass window. Again, flying screen and blind. Here's our toilet. Flush tank sits in the top there. Okay, there's our button for flushing it. Okay, and here it is our light when that's illuminated. That tells us that our cassette that's sat in here is full. Okay, so you use the toilet in the normal way. Okay, this doesn't move around, and then we flush it by pressing the flush button. Okay, which will then fill this up with water. We then open the gate by using this handle here, push it over to one side. Everything then drops down into the cassette. Okay, and then we can shut it up from there, and that creates the seal and stops all the smells and everything coming back up through there. Okay, you do need to make sure that is fully shut. A, because it creates the seal, and B, you won't be able to remove the cassette if that is not pulled all the way over. Okay, so don't try and force it out of there. If you're struggling to get it out, it's because that isn't shut properly. Right, carpets are sat in here as well. Okay, as is our TV aerial in this wardrobe. Directional TV aerial, we can extend it over the top of the van by undoing the locking nut there and pushing it up. Okay, and that will extend it over the van for us. We can then use the handle here. What that'll do is change the plane of the aerial, okay, to try and get a better signal, basically. Not forgetting when we're finished and we're travelling that does need to be pulled down. There we go. That then goes through to our booster here. Okay, so we have a booster with a little switch on top that will turn the booster on. Again, this will turn on and off with your main panel, so you can just leave it on. Okay, and then we have a gain there, which I would leave that all the way up, and that will then boost the signal from your aerial. Okay, another mixer tap. All right, so we know how a mixer tap works. All right, that heating's been on, hot water's been on overnight, so that should be nice and warm now. It does get very hot. In fact, if I put it over to hot, that will help. There we go, that's our heat up now. And I say, we'll get to the point where you won't be able to keep your hand underneath it because it does get that hot. All right, but of course we can mix it with cold water as well. Shower works in the same way. I'm not going to teach you how to use the shower, okay, but we know how to use a shower. The door here is held back by a clip. Again, you want to be making sure that is held back when you're travelling, because otherwise you're going to end up with doors smashing all over the place and potentially breaking. All right, so just make sure that is held back. Okay, and then you can't go wrong. Freestanding table is sat in here. Okay, so that's our dining table for in there or outside or wherever we are eating. Right, that's kind of it really for the inside. So what we'll do, let's break the van down. We've been on holiday, we've had a nice time. I'll just let you know that there are lots of instruction manuals in here and bits and pieces as well. Okay, so that you will find that in your top drawer just here. Right, so we've been on holiday, we've had a nice time. We want to start switching everything off and draining everything down. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to turn off my trimmer panel. All right, you want to turn that off before you turn off your panel, otherwise it can get a bit confused with the signal from the 12-volt system. So turn that off first. Then I'm going to come here and I'm going to turn off my main panel here. There we go, you can see that's turned off all of my lights. I'm then going to turn off my fridge because I'm not going anywhere towing wise, but you may well switch that over to the battery setting, or if you've got it on auto, it will do it on its own. There we go, that's that turned off. Now we want to start draining the system down. So first thing I'll do is come and open my boiler drain valve. We know where that is, that's sat underneath here. We can hear all that water draining out and we'll see that from the outside. You may want to turn off your, depending on what you're doing, but I'm going to turn off my my main bits there as well. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to put my taps between hot and cold, all right, and I'm going to leave them open. The reason for that is if you can get in a habit of making sure that we drain everything down, toilets, everything, boiler drain down, drain that down, leave the taps open. That way, if we get any freezing weather, there's any water stuck in the pipes, water expands when it freezes, and the amount of times we see cracked pipes, cracked taps, and then the next time you come to plumb your van up, you find you've got a leak somewhere. So if you can make it, something you do every day, or every time you finish with your van, then you're not going to go too far wrong. Okay, so I'm going to do that in here as well. Turn that off, make sure it's in the middle, that way there's air going between both sides of the system. There we go. Okay, so that is everything in here done. What we now want to do is start detaching everything from the outside of the van. Right, so you can see where all the water's starting to drain down from the van here now, so we know everything's starting to come out of the van, which is excellent. I'm going to firstly turn off my gas bottle. Okay, I'm actually going to remove this one because this is my test bottle, so I'm going to use my hand tight wheel and just go with an opposite thread, open that up, and that will then drop out. Just checking the seals and everything once we've done that to make sure that there's no splits or anything in our pigtails. That looks fine. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the gas bottle from there like so. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my my water barrel. So take this out using the trigger and then just give it a wiggle. Okay, and then we pull that out of our aqua roll. Give that a shake off. I'm going to put that in the front locker here so that you know where that is when you need it. You're then going to empty your aqua roll. You're going to stow that away. Okay, you're going to do the same with your waste master as well. You're going to empty that, stow all your bits and pieces away. Some people put these the aqua rolls and waste masters in the shower, wrapped in a towel or something, but you'll come up with your own way of doing things. Let's move that out of the way. Just to make sure that everything's shut up properly. What I'm now going to do is, my colleague's just given me the nod that he has unplugged the mains lead, so I'm going to unplug it from the van. What you want to making sure you're doing when you're plugging or unplugging your van is that you're not walking around with a live cable. All right, so before you unplug it from the van, you unplug it from the wall, and then the other way round when you're plugging your van in. That way we've never got a live cable in our hand. And also, if it is on a coil, you want to be making sure that it's not on a coil, okay, because it does draw a lot of heat. Okay, a lot of current, sorry, and can get quite warm. So if you've got it on a drum, make sure it's flaked out and it's not in a big circle. That way it won't sort of melt itself. So that's all done there. What we now need to do is put our legs up and we can have a quick look at our motor mover. Right, now I've put all my legs up, you can see I used my drill attachment there, just makes life a little bit easier, so it may be worth getting one of those. We need a couple of things. We need our remote control and our isolator key. This here is, because it's an auto engage mover, this will help us to engage or disengage it manually if we need to. Okay, there is a little rubber grommet on the end here that will go into the end and we can wind it on and off using this handle. So if it does get stuck on for some reason, that is what you're going to use. But what we're going to do is we're going to come around, and our isolating socket is in our battery box, just in here. So that goes in there, push and twist. That will allow the power from the battery to go to our motor mover. Okay, so that's why if you are using your motor mover a lot, it's worth getting a decent battery, okay, to make sure that it is up to the job. An AGM battery is generally what they recommend for a motor mover. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Any more questions about that, just give us a shout. So now I'm going to turn my handset on. 2 green buttons there, hold them down, all right, and then we're waiting for a nice solid green light there, which I've got. I then need to put the rollers onto the wheels. So if you can see here, I've got a picture, if I come out the sun, I've got a green arrow pointing towards the wheels and I've got a red arrow pointing away from the wheels. So I want it to go towards the wheels. So I need to press 2 buttons, the middle one and then that one. Right, now we can hear that's operating, and that mover now is pushing towards the wheel. Okay, so we make sure it's going on both sides. Yeah, that's good. So now what we want to do is wait till we've got a nice till this stops flashing basically. Okay, now we turn this over and you can see we've got the shape of a caravan, so that's forwards and that's backwards. But now we've got our mover engaged, we're in a position to remove our handbrake, so we push that down. What you don't want to be doing is removing your handbrake until your mover's engaged, because if you're on any kind of a hill, you're going to be playing catch the caravan. Not a good way to start or finish your holiday, okay? So I press forwards, there we go, and off she goes. Okay, you can pretty much spin it on its own axis, all right, by doing whatever you want to do. Always moving around, making sure you're not going to hit anything, of course. But you can be very, very precise with this when it comes to getting it on the back of your car or, you know, onto your pitch or whatever you want to do. So there we go. Right, so now that's how that operates. What we're going to do, turn that handset off. We just only have to press one of the green buttons for that. In fact, no, what am I talking about? Turn it back on again. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put our handbrake on, okay? Because again, if I remove the rollers from the wheels, then the handbrake isn't on, it's gonna roll down a hill. So now I'm going to do the opposite, press the middle button again. If I come out the sun, middle button and then the arrow away from the wheel. Okay, that will then start to remove the rollers from there. Again, what we do is wait till this stops flashing. You may think that it's stopped doing its business, but it does do a little action at the end just to take it off the end of the thread. Okay, then what I would do is turn my handset off and I'm good to go. So that's how my Alpine 2 works. Again, everything's backed up in the handbooks and we're on the end of the phone as well. But enjoy your new caravan and I hope that's helped.